In March of 2000, pro wrestling was everywhere. Sports entertainment was at its absolute peak. ECW had landed a TV deal with TNN, WCW was giving the world title to a new guy every few days, and the WWF was pushing the boundaries every night with more blood and boobs than any preteen knew what to do with. It was a great time to be a fan, and it was a great time to be a kid. When I wasn't stuck at school, my days consisted of goofing off outside with my friends. We'd play kickball, run around with toy guns, play with our action figures, or guys as we'd call them, and play video games. Video games were becoming more mature as the years went on. Mario and Crash Bandicoot weren't going anywhere, but they were being joined by the likes of Resident Evil, Silent Hill, and Metal Gear Solid.
Payday, Mitch. I'm proud of you. With this, you joined the American workforce. A rare breed of determined and dedicated...
Quit. Now $129.95 gets you an N64 and a second Atomic Purple Color controller free.
If you were a wrestling fan with a Nintendo 64, you had it made. WCW was absolutely killing it in the 90s with WCW NWO World Tour, and then WCW vs. NWO Revenge. The WWF followed suit, releasing WrestleMania 2000 just 2 years later. But if you had a PlayStation, you weren't so lucky. I was a PlayStation kid growing up, which means I basically got the shit end of the stick. While the other kids played their 4-player copies of Revenge and WrestleMania 2000, I was trying my best to pretend that WWF Warzone wasn't a complete pile of shit. Warzone was developed by Iguana, who had been making WWF games for years, and none of them were particularly amazing. I remember telling my friends, "No, dude, Warzone is awesome. If you do a weapons match, sometimes there's a table." That was my argument, that every once in a while there'd be a table you could break. Yeah, what a great game.
1, 2, 3.
But back to March of 2000. March 2nd, 2000 to be exact. WWF SmackDown was released for the PlayStation. It was the first WWF game to be developed by Ukes, and with the new team behind the wheel, PlayStation fans hoped it would be the first great pro wrestling game on their home console. Oh my goodness gracious, do I love that sound. That's one of the definitive sounds of my childhood. Now look, if you're watching this, it's probably because you're a fan of the SmackDown games or at the very least familiar with them, so don't worry, I'm not going to give you a full tutorial on the inner workings of the game mechanics and how it works. We're just going to jump right into the action. SmackDown is fucking awesome. Gone are the days of Warzone's Mortal Kombat-esque button combinations in order to hit a finisher. All you have to do is get your opponent groggy and tap L1. SmackDown offers you 12 different match types right off the bat, including cage matches, hardcore, I Quit, special referee, Royal Rumble, King of the Ring, and more. The number is actually higher than 12 when you break it down, as Survival has subcategories of Fatal 4-Way and Triple Threat. PlayStation gamers had never had this much variety at their fingertips. This is all before you factor in create a pay-per-view mode, where you can book your own entire card and play it out one by one. It even archives your best shows with an audience rating. Again, as a stats junkie, I love this. The ability to customize the arena might be a throwaway feature to some, but it was actually one of my favorite parts. You had the option to choose between Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-view arenas, and then you could customize the ring. Sometimes I'd put the SmackDown ring in the Raw arena just because I could. By the way, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the WWF ever used those graphics on the ring mat. I didn't miss an episode of Raw or SmackDown for years, and I don't ever recall seeing them. Either way, they're cool, so I use them every once in a while. The character select screen seems to be in no order whatsoever. We go from Triple H to Big Show to Mankind to X-Pac to Mr. Ass, which wasn't even his name, to Road Dogg to Kane. What the hell is this? Would have been so hard to put it in alphabetical order? The animation quality on the finishing moves varies from top-notch to terrible. For example, Undertaker's tombstone looks great, as is the People's Elbow. Others look completely weightless and silly, like Austin's Stunner and Chris Jericho's Double Powerbomb. I feel conflicted on SmackDown's championship belt situation. I was a belt mark growing up. I was obsessed with belts, so who I put them on and why meant a lot to me. Unfortunately, the belts themselves are nowhere to be found outside of the belt record screen. In-game characters don't wear them to the ring, they don't celebrate with them when they win, nothing. On the plus side, we have every WWF championship at our disposal. You've got your WWF title, Intercontinental title, Hardcore, European, Tag Team, Women's, it's all here. You can do whatever you want. As long as it coincides with the ranking system. What? Yeah, there's an in-depth ranking system. It keeps track of wins, losses, which as a stats junkie, I love, but you have to be a top 5 contender to challenge for the WWF Championship, so there's no room for spontaneity, which means you can't just have Undertaker defend the WWF title against D'Lo Brown as a goof. You'd have to have D'Lo go on an insane winning streak and work his way up the rankings to get an opportunity. This sucks. The WWF did goofy shit like this all the time, and it led to some of those memorable moments we've ever seen. Jericho versus Triple H for the title on Raw, anybody? I see what they were trying to do with the ranking system, and I actually don't hate it, I just wish it were optional. Strict rankings make this feel more like a UFC game than a WWF game. And speaking of the UFC, what the fuck is with the match rules in this game? Obviously you can win by scoring a pinfall, but why are submission and knockout a package deal? Why is there even an option for a knockout in a wrestling game? Do you have any idea how rare that is? It totally ruins the fun if you forget to turn this option off, and in the middle of a back and forth match where you and your opponent are trading 2 counts, they hit their finisher and all of a sudden it's over. You don't even get the chance to kick out or pray for a rope break, it just ends. One of the main pieces of the SmackDown puzzle is the season mode. You choose a character and play through a stripped-down version of the WWF calendar starting in April of 2000. I'll give you a quick rundown of what my season mode experience was like. I chose to start with The Undertaker because he was the WWF Champion, and I wanted to defend the title. My first match was a Fatal 4-Way against Austin, Big Show, and Triple H. My title was not on the line, which sucked, but I thought, okay, it's just an episode of Raw, that makes sense that they wouldn't want to give away a huge match like that for free. It did not take long for me to realize I was giving them way more credit than they deserved. Season mode makes no fucking sense whatsoever. I won the 4-Way and moved on to the next show. Title defense now, right? Nah. How about a triple threat against Big Show and China?
What?
Oh, and that's nothing. I won the triple threat match and moved ahead, only to find out that I was now the special referee for the women's title match between Tori and Deborah. Can you imagine the fucking Undertaker being the referee for the women's title match? Undertaker was running the ministry at this point. He crucified Stephanie McMahon and hung her from the ceiling, and now he's decided to take up refereeing in women's matches? Whatever, there's a skip button, so I took advantage of that. The next week I faced X-Pac in a cage. Still a little odd as far as the rankings go, but it was a step in the right direction. Another week rolls on, and here we go, SummerSlam. Now's the time. Now is finally the time for me to defend my WWF Championship in the main event of one of the big 4. I eagerly tap the X button, and I'm not even on the fucking show. The main event was Paul Bearer versus Big Boss Man in an I Quit match. No titles on the line. Nothing. No reason for it happening at all. Speaking of no reason, there are cutscenes in season mode, and they serve no purpose whatsoever. Like I said, I was playing as The Undertaker, and in the middle of the show, the game starts loading. I see Hardcore Holly in the ring and the text window pops up saying, Hardcore Holly and Matt Hardy have a long-standing feud. First of all, no they don't. I've been looking at every match card all year. Second of all, I don't give a shit, I'm The Undertaker. At one point the game cut to Bradshaw and Farouk in the boiler room in full gear. The text said, I wonder what they're talking about. Who gives a fuck what they're talking about? I played season mode for 8 months before they let me defend my WWF title on a random episode of SmackDown. It wasn't even a pay-per-view. Inside of that 8 months, I saw Ken Shamrock go 16-0 before losing to Vince McMahon of all people, who I guess was jealous of his success. And the screen said, Anywhere match, which I guess meant Anywhere Falls, which is probably the terrible translation of Falls Count Anywhere. That's weird. Anyway, I finally defended my title and I lost when Mankind rolled me up in the middle of the ring. Didn't even hit a finisher, nothing. Oh, what a joke. After a full year of season mode, I go to a screen that pops up with text that says, "Congratulations, you can create Ivory." Yeah, you don't unlock wrestlers in this game. You unlock pieces of them, and you have to build them yourself. And not only that, to make them worth a damn, you have to take them through 10 years of preseason mode. 10 years! Get the fuck out of here. Outside of season mode, I made a few other weird observations. When I was a kid, I thought this casket was a table. How? I don't know. I think I knew it was a casket, I just wanted it to be a table because I was so desperate to put someone through a table in this game. And holy shit, how strong you have to be to swing a casket like that. Caskets are heavy as hell. There's a reason it takes 6 pallbearers to carry one at a funeral. And no, not that pallbearer. I mean the coffin boy. And one more thing. Did anyone else notice that Bubba Ray Dudley is wearing the Confederate flag on his head? Ay, ay, ay. So that's WWF SmackDown on the PlayStation. It was super fun 17 years ago, and it's super fun now. I was a little hard on it for the sake of this review, but that's just to make it entertaining. If I talk about how good it is the whole time, that's not very fun to watch. You can get that sort of video anywhere. This was just part 1 in a 5-part series. I'm going to cover the entire classic SmackDown game collection, so I hope you join us next time, where we're going to cover WWF SmackDown 2 Know Your Role, the only numbered sequel in the entire run for some reason. I'll see you next time, Dan Ains.